Pushkin.
What music did you grow up with, man?
You know, you always have a cousin, an older cousin, or a big brother, and in my case, it was an older cousin. He was really into the old school hard rock stuff like Metallica, Iron Maiden. So I grew up with listening to his tapes. Then I moved on to grunge a bit because, I mean, I didn't really choose it. You know, it was what you were exposed to on MTV and everything. Yeah. Then I had a new metal phase for a short time, not so short.
Any specific
band
or album?
Yeah, we were talking about it on the way here. Like I was really into Korn and but like yeah, for a few albums, and I had dreadlocks because of them for a short time. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for oversharing, but yeah.
There's like for those who know how to search, there's on Google there's one picture of him with dreadlocks. So for all the real diggers here,
what does one search?
We've said everything, so now if you're a real digger, you will find it.
The responsibility's on us to find it.
Responsibility or guilt because you don't know what you're gonna find.
It can be easily made with AI though. So.
Might make you feel bad forever out. To look at this picture.
Oh man, I had dreadlocks too, but I think it's just a little different. I guess
probably look better than
but
mine.
Somehow I can imagine. Yeah, it's not as bad. Yeah.
No. Did you have a new metal phase?
No, never. I mean, like one of the first album I really loved was the first Rage Against the Machine album.
Oh yeah.
But that's not. I mean, that's new metal technically because it's a guy rapping on metal.
Yeah.
But it's much more than this, you know.
They kind of created it, sadly, maybe in a way. Although yeah.
Yeah, like it's the only band I've ever listened to in that type. No, I listened a bit to Urban Dance Squad too. That was like the Dutch equivalent of Rage Against the Machine.
What were they?
Urban Dance Squad. They made a track called Demagogue.
Oh, I'm gonna listen to that.
Yeah.
What was your trajectory in terms of what you started listening to and how it moved along?
The first album I bought was Doggy Style. And,
Snoop Doggy Style.
Yeah. In
I live in Long Beach, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, and still today I love this album and I still listen to it. And because of this album, I started to listen to Parliament and Funkadelic. And so my second CD, the second CD I bought was Uncle Jam Wants You. and that's fun because I bought it because he only has 8 songs on it. It was less expensive, it was cheaper than the other ones, so that's why I bought this one. And I didn't really like it first. I liked Knee Deep and Freak of the Week, of course.
Yeah.
But years after, my favorite songs on this album are more like Field Maneuvers and How He Wants to Go to California, that are not the songs that I liked at the moment. But because I didn't have money and I forced myself to listen to this record over and over, and like all good things, it's like really often it's not the things that strike you first that stay with you, but more the underdogs songs. And yeah, I miss that a bit with like the new way we listen to music. Is not being able to like I can't like I'm not scared, but yeah, I'm scared of thinking how many of my favorite songs I missed because I just listened to the singles or like the most popular songs of an album or an artist.
It's really easy not to listen to a full album. I mean, I'm so I hate listening that way, but I'm completely guilty of it, you know?
Yeah. It's very easy, but an easy way of not doing so, and this is what we do a bit still, is buying vinyls. Like the albums I really want to listen to, I buy vinyl.
Yeah.
And then I just put it on, and I try not to do anything else. It's very difficult not to be tempted to listen to record and watch something else at the same time. But it's worth it.
Yeah. It's like reading a book these days. It's like you have to, if you dedicate yourself to do it, it's worth the time. But it's hard to slow yourself down enough to.
Yeah, and exactly the same way. Like it's really rare to get into a book before you have read at least like 100 pages of it, and then it's like you start getting in it, and you stop reading and you start just like flowing in it, and that's the same with the record.
Yeah. What do you think it is about the Snoop Dogg record, about Doggy Style, that makes it still good today?
Everything but first is that pretty much every song on Doggy Style is an assemblage. It's like a blend of like 3 songs of Parliament and Funkadelic. So they're starting from a good material, and then Dr. Dre, as the great producer that he is, he made it the right way to make this song into something modern and sometimes even better than the original tracks that he sampled. And Snoop at this moment was such a cool character. He was at the same time a bit, especially for me, because I grew up in like a white Paris suburbs, so that was the exact opposite of what I knew, you know what I mean? So it was so
exotic and fascinating.
Yeah, fascinating, you know. His rap was amazing. Like, there's so many.
His voice was really good then. Like when it's still iconic and still sounds. But when you do listen to that era of him, you're like, wow, his voice was particularly
very specific voice. He doesn't sound like anyone else in the rap and even like the cover, like this badly drawn cover, it's like completely amateur fanzine thing. It's so good.
Yeah, similar to like how Parliament Funkadelic, like how their album covers are. That was Pedro Bell that did the Funkadelic and Parliament covers, and then it was this guy Joe Cool from Long Beach that just died recently that did the Snoop Dogg cover. But I always felt inspired by like those hand-drawn Funkadelic covers to me, you know?
It is, but the Parliament Funkadelic ones are like, they have a level of professionalism that the Snoop one doesn't have. But this is
more psychedelic.
And this is when the Snoop ones are great because they really feel true, you know? It's a bit like, it's not really well drawn. It looks very very rough. Yeah, but it suits the project perfectly. Yeah.
For you, listening to music, was the artwork important? Because you guys were both like graphic designers before music.
And I mean, especially like back in the days when you had to save money to buy a record. So obviously you would go for the cover you liked better, and if you had the choice between 2 records you wanted to get, and we bought like so many vinyls just for the cover, and sometimes you have this perfect like match between what the cover is and the music, but like we definitely did our graphic design education through vinyl covers and stuff like this, because it's the perfect format, and it's really like the blend between like typography, photography, illustration, and on such a like concise square, you know, it's just perfect.
Yeah. Did you guys draw from a young age?
Yeah, we both were, but Gaspard draws pretty well. I think I'm not too good. I'm not good at it.
You're better. But you're very good at. He's very good at handwriting. You can feel he has a school graffiti guy past. You know, like.
Now I'm good at analytic drawing. But I'm not good at illustration, and Gaspard is a better illustrator.
So analytic drawing, you mean more like
like
life.
I call it like this because it was the name of the courses we had. But it's like if you show me like an object with a structure, I can draw it, because like analytic drawing is about understanding the structure of something. But I mean, drawing, it's this, it's understanding how things are made and then just like draw them. Right. So this I can do.
So you draw more the way like an architect or an engineer.
I wouldn't go that far,
but more that direction than
because like I can draw a human body or whatever. We had like anatomic courses, so I understand how it's made and I can do it. But that doesn't make me a good drawer. Like a good drawer is someone that can transfer a good idea into a drawing and make you feel something. Yeah. If I draw a spoon, it will look like a spoon, but you will not feel anything looking at it.
That's funny, man. How did you two come together?
We met in a party in a kitchen, because it's always in the kitchen that you're having the most fun at parties most of the time. And just through common friends, and we started like laughing about what is still making us laugh today. Like just a bit of absurd humor and like just stepping away from reality and finding precise words to have fun of it. I think our favorite kind of humor is. But I mean, the best humor is always about precision in terms of words, the choice of words.
To describe something.
How did you guys bond over music?
We both had a few like pieces of gear, but it was really rudimental. Does it exist, that word? Rudimental?
Yeah.
Okay. And
rudimentary,
rudimentary. Okay. And at the time, we used to hang out a lot in pawn shops in Paris, where they used to have like some pieces of equipment, like synthesizers and also records. And we could not afford the synthesizers, but we would buy records and listen to them. And the common friends that introduced us to each other had an indie label, like a proper indie label, where they were like burning CDs and then mailing them out by hand, printing the covers on a home printer. So that was like a proper one. And two things happened at the same time. Is that they were making a compilation and asked all their friends to make a track. So we decided to make one together. And at the same time, we received the stems of Simian Never Be Alone for a remix contest in Paris. And this is when we made We Are Your Friends. So that was, the first track we made alongside the other one that we made for our friends.
That's really great. I thought for sure there must have been a couple of more songs before that just never came out.
No, that was really like the beginnings. And we didn't have a computer at the time. We had like a Akai S2000 sampler. Gaspard had a Boss drum machine.
Dr. Rhythm.
A Korg Poly 800. And we had like a Mackie mixer and Akai expander, so that was doing piano sounds. And that was made with this, with no computer. We burnt a CD, and that was the master of the track.
Did you guys even know how to use all that equipment just yet, or was it kind of just experimenting to figure out how to use it and then?
No, we still don't know, to be honest. No, but for real, like synthesizers were really not good at it. But because like to properly use a synthesizer, you need to understand like the electric architecture of us, because this is electricity running through things,
Yeah.
And we never made the effort of learning. So if we have a synthesizer, if we find like a good preset that we like, we can tweak it a bit to make it sound exactly, but we can't like if you hand us like a mini Moog or a harp or whatever, we can't start from like a noise or an oscillator and then get what we want. That's impossible to do for us.
Wow. And did you guys play any instruments before that?
Yes, we used to play in high school bands. I used to play bass and guitar, and Gaspard drums and piano.
But never in the same groups.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
pre-internet. Yeah. At the same time as we started Justice, we were in the backing band of a friend of us, and Gaspard was playing the drums and I was playing the bass.
Were you guys a pretty locked in rhythm section? Were you guys like?
Yeah, we are not that tight. Yeah.
You weren't that tight?
No. Thank God the computer happened.
Yeah, computer saved us.
So, how exactly did you guys put together We Are Your Friends? How did you guys manage that together?
So we received the stems for this like a remix contest that was on a student radio in Paris. And because we didn't have a computer, just a sampler, we listened to the vocal parts and we isolated the chorus because we couldn't, like, there was not enough memory of on the sampler to take more. And we looped that thing, and then we started like writing music on it. And we didn't even listen to the original track because we just had the stems. And so we just wrote music to those vocals, exactly the same way as if the guy was here like singing something, and we would just like play with him. But the process is still the same today. Like we just like play around
and you each will have something and you'll play against each other, or you'll each.
It depends. It's like sometimes we play together. But it's really rare. Like most of the times, we take turns. Like one of us is like starting something, and then when the other one has an idea, or when the other one sees that the other one is like he's just like circling around, just jump in and then continue, and that's how we make things most of the time.
It feels like from the beginning, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's just my impression from having. Well, and actually, let me get to that next. From your guys' perspective, how did We Are Your Friends get as popular as it did?
It's definitely a slow burner because it like the big luck that we had is that we made this track, we lost the contest, and we met Pedro Winter. Like 2 weeks after losing the contest, we knew who he was. And for those who don't know, like at the time he was Daft Punk's manager. And so we end up...
And he's Busy P at Bang.
Yeah, exactly.
Records, yeah.
And he ends up coming to Gaspard's place for dinner because our friend Bertrand Somi was like working on Headbanger, the label, with him, and they were just starting it together. And so we knew that he was looking like for like new artists, and that he was Daft Punk's manager, and he was there. So at some point we told him, we're making some music. We haven't made much, but we can play you the stuff. So we just had We Are Your Friends to play him and another track. And we played it to him, and we're like, okay, so we made this for a contest. We lost, but we're gonna make more if ever you're interested. And he was like, nah, like give me this one. I want to release this one. So like, yeah, basically like 2 months after we started making music, we were signed to Headbanger with this guy that was a French hero, you know. So we are very, very happy and excited. And he released the track with not too much response. I mean, it was okay, but it was not crazy. But because that's always the same thing, like you can be like whoever manager, or you can be in the biggest band in the world. If you do like a side project, you start from zero again. Yeah. And with Headbanger, I started from zero again. Like people were interested in Daft Punk, of course, but not in the new stuff he was doing.
It's like, let me play you this stuff. And it's just,
So he was really like doing it like a guerrilla style, you know, like he was like pressing like 500 records. He was like driving on his like scooter putting them in record stores by himself. So it was very all handmade. And then I think 1 year and a half after, it got re-released on Gigolo Records. It's the German label in Munich. It's a DJ Hell record label. And then in 2006, it got released again on Virgin Records.
Okay.
And this is when it started becoming something more. So that was 3 years after we released it.
You guys made it in 2003.
Yes. Wow. And but everything we do is slow. We only make slow burners. It's DNC was the same. Our first album, it's only after 1 year something that we sold the first 100,000 copies of it.
Really?
Yeah, it was all very slow. Waters of Nazareth, our second track, was really slow also. We saw the fruits of that 1 year or 2 years after.
Wow.
So yeah, making instant hits is definitely not our forte.
My memory of the first album was that it was kind of instantly popular,
because you're a trendsetter. Maybe it was for you.
Maybe it was, yeah.
But it was not for the people in general,
Yeah. Because I just remember everyone having We Are Your Friends, and everyone at parties in California would play it, and everyone would be there's no I remember being there's no album, that's weird, because it sounded like such a coherent sound. I was they must have a bunch of stuff, and I remember being there's nothing else. Where's the other stuff? And then
but yeah, it's fun because We Are Your Friends, I guess Simian did it and probably with some kind of tongue-in-cheek intention, and so we kind of took this element out, and it became this very almost very positive and almost naive lyrical content. And which is something we could never come up with, just saying we are your friends, you'll never be alone again. It would be impossible for us to get along with those lyrics, and I guess this is what made the track popular as well, is that because the music goes into that kind of naivety direction, but with more groove, and obviously it's more repetitive. But it completely changed the angle of the track.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's interesting because I can't imagine coming up to Gaspard and telling him, "Yo, listen, we're gonna make a song. It's gonna say, 'We are your friends. You'll never be alone again.' So come on," and sing him the hook, and him saying, "Yeah, buddy, let's do it right now."
High five.
I think he would laugh at me and tell me to fuck off. So it's very interesting. When we make music, we often think of this. Would we be able to come up with riffs such as Seven Nation Army? For me, is the best example of a riff that if we would find it, I think we would discard it immediately. And the genius of those people is to manage to think, to recognize what's gonna be something huge,
right?
And then be focused enough to manage to finish a track with it. Yeah.
To your point, Gaspard, that is such a naive lyric, but the way what you guys orchestrated around it does almost make it sound a little tongue-in-cheek,
Yeah, because the way he sings it is very intense, he's screaming, and it's almost keyless in a way, but it's just I guess it's just very positive and powerful, and also people can relate to it because it's screamed as well.
Yeah.
And it's not too what's the word, too sweet.
Yeah.
And it's but when actually when the guys from Simian received the remix, they didn't like it, so we lost the contest, and they thought it sounded like MIDI jazz, which is not too far from the truth, you know, when you listen to it.
They thought it sounded like what?
MIDI jazz.
MIDI jazz?
Yeah, James Ford described the song as being MIDI jazz. And but that's fun and fair enough. Technically, this is what it was. You know, it was all MIDI with like some kind of like chords with like more than 3 notes in it. So yeah, that's MIDI jazz, you know.
This arpeggiated kind of thing. Yeah, like almost like, I guess video game music sometimes too could be labeled that, you know.
Yeah, but there are such amazing tunes like the Mario ones, and they are inspired by like jazz tunes and everything. So yeah, it makes sense.
What with the sounds that you guys, because it all like that sort of distorted synthesizer sound. Like, how did you guys come across? Like, how did you guys dial that sound in?
But the first thing is that when because for example to make bass lines, so we use like the bass preset in the Akai 2000 sampler. So it was like maybe like 1.5 octaves of bass notes, but they sound like very sterile and very cold. Yeah. And so we would crank it to make it sound more real. So that's the thing, is that because a lot of the sounds that we have didn't sound good, we noticed that if you compress them like 4 times and you distort them, they start sounding good.
Wow.
And also at the time we used to listen to a lot of Zongamin. I don't know if you know this Japanese UK band. Oh, it's really good.
How do you spell it?
Zongamin.
Great.
It's the guy, like the main guy, is a so English Japanese bassist, and he's a virtuoso, such a good player. And Zongamin is kind of like disco psychedelic rock instrumental. It's still one of the best albums of this decade today. Wow. We used to listen to a lot of the White Stripes too. We loved the sound of it. So we knew that, or we felt that distorting and over compressing things were making them feel better for us. Also because we had no idea what we were doing, you know. So that's the shortest path to something that's satisfactory. And then in 2004, we bought a computer because we could finally afford one. And then we found out about the digital distortion and how far you can go with like a compressor. Because also, like when we are only hardware, we only had one compressor. Now we could put like 16 compressors on one channel and just chain like distortions and everything. And it just opened a new world of possibilities to us.
Wow. And what about you know, you're talking about how you just distorting, because you didn't have in your mind good sound, so distorting was the best way to come up with something satisfying. But I feel like your drum sound, dating back to at least the first record too, I think drum sounds guys always seemed really clean to me. Not, or am I misremembering?
No. I mean, they are clean. They're just very like on the first album. Well, without going too technical, like on the master bus, there was so many distortion and so much distortion and compression that whatever we would put in our session, we had like to lower the gain by at least like 36 dBs for it to sound normal. And most of the drums on the first album, they come from like there's a track on Gaucho by Steely Dan where we took like a kick and snare, and also we had like some drum parts from Soul Wax that we use. So they are live drums, but they are so compressed that they sound the way they are. We are not into like distorted drums in the sense that we don't like when I don't like when I listen to a record and I can picture like the drummer hitting like very hard. We prefer like the soft touch.
Yeah.
And so we would try to make them sound as not soft, but like not hard hitting if possible. So that's why we never put any what's the word? Any hearable distortion on the drums. We don't want them to do like.
Hold on, just out of curiosity, if you looked at the track list from Gaucho, would you be able to pick which one?
It's let's see. That's those ones. So that's Time Out of Mind.
Wow, that's amazing. Were you a Steely Dan fan?
Not fans, but we like them.
The effort. Yeah.
We like the idea of Steely Dan more than the song sometimes.
What was the idea to you?
Of being two and using a studio as an instrument. It's like being two and being the orchestrator of your band. Sometimes not even playing in your own band, but just being the architects and saying, okay, so this guy is gonna play this part, this guy is gonna play this part, and that was the same thing with the Buggles that we loved. It's just like group of one or two guys in those like two cases, who started to consider the possibilities of the studio more than a place where you record what you have to record, but really to use it as a tool to make something more than this.
Yeah.
And even in the worst things, like, because for example, like if you look at this like documentary about Aja, when they record like the Peg solo, they use like, I don't know, like 13 different guitarists, and it's despicable, you know. It's not a good thing to do, but at the same time it's cool.
Yeah.
That they were like, nope, oh yeah, until they find the one that makes exactly the right thing thereafter. And there's something a bit like this in our band, is that sometimes we have an intuition of what we want. We don't know exactly how to get there, and it's gonna take us like dozens or hundreds of versions sometimes until we pinpoint exactly what we want. And so maybe that's why we recognize ourselves in this type of process. Yeah.
Wow. Did you guys? I love the Flints.
Cool. Yeah, they're cool.
Love the Flints. I've been meaning to try to have them on here for a few years now, a couple years. Did you guys work with them similarly, or no? Like almost like you guys were directing them, Steely Dan style?
Yeah, we went to London in their studio to record the vocals, and yeah, I mean they're a really great pair of twins that we just discovered them like randomly, and we loved.
How did you guys find them?
And actually, it's like similarly to Steely Dan, they were like I think the first people to try on that song, like to put vocals on that track.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah, but as soon as we started working on them, we felt that it would be the right one. Yeah.
Wow. Who else did you guys work with on that?
But it wouldn't be nice to say, especially since in that case, like some of the people we worked with, we felt it was not working because it was not the right song for them.
Yeah.
And there are still people that we want to try things with.
Yeah.
So it was not out of like lack of skills or incompatibility or whatever. It was just not the right tune, and it happens sometimes.
Wasn't a rejection of the artist. It just wasn't right for them.
Not at all. Never. And we reject so much of what we are doing ourselves.
Yeah.
That if it happens one time with someone, we don't mistake it for like incompetence or whatever. Yeah. It's just not the right thing, you know.
Yeah. That stretch of the new album, Hyperdrama, from like Dear Allen to Explorer, is like, that's one of my favorite. That was a really awesome section of the album, like the way it just moved. Is it Midnight Rendezvous?
Yeah,
that one.
Moonlight Rendezvous.
Moonlight Rendezvous. Excuse me, Moonlight Rendezvous.
Yeah, we hesitated between Midnight and Moonlight. So
we didn't.
Are you joking? Right. Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do it because there was a Japanese tract or band that was called the Midnight Rendezvous, and we didn't want to use the exact same word.
Oh man. Okay. Well, that's what I. My brain went the same place. What were the? That's such a unique track. How did that come together?
Moonlight Rendezvous and Explorer, they belong to the same. Basically, for us, it's one track that's cut in two to make it more digestible, and also that if you want to listen to Explorer only, you don't have to listen to Moonlight Rendezvous before. And there's this guy called Adrien Soleiman. He's a saxophone player in France, like a studio, a session player, but he also makes his own records, and we also like had the PPG at the time. PPG Wave PPG is one of the first digital synthesizer. It's a 12-bit synth.
Wow.
And because it has a 12-bit chip, there's like always this kind of like beat crusher, like very soft beat crusher on it that sounds very futuristic, and it's all throughout the record. And we wanted to make this kind of like saxophone piano track, a bit like Blade Runner type of thing, you know,
cool.
But with the modern sound of the PPG instead of the piano, and also like this the way we made the saxophone sound, so it has like a pinch of futurism in a classic form of writing and just a musical form, you know.
Wow. And did you, with the saxophone part is beautiful. How did you guys achieve it? Did it take some time, or was that like a first take?
No, we worked also with another friend called Victor Leman, who was the musical Olympics director in Paris.
Wow.
And so yeah, we were just like bouncing back, like, you know, singing stuff to each other, and obviously we can't play the saxophone, so but we were just like directed this guy Soleiman, and he's a really funny character because he's a huge guy, you know. He looks like an American football player, you know, like massive shoulders and a very like I mean, he looks very like masculine in a way, in the sense that he's
like old school masculine look,
old school man.
Yeah. and he's like a great super sensitive jazz musician. So I really love like the dichotomy of this guy.
And we spent like an afternoon, like a whole day with him in the studio. And so we would direct him, and for example, we would tell him things like, okay, so now you go into like the cocaine jazz part. So he was playing, and I'm like, no, you put like more cocaine in your playing, you know. But because there's like different forms of jazz, there's like, and one of them is the cocaine jazz, and then there's the heroin jazz. But we didn't want to go in.
You didn't want to go to that heroin,
to that territory. But we would say things like this because we knew that, and that's the good thing with working with like friends, is that like they know exactly what we're talking about when we're saying that, because we have kind of the same references and things. So there was no cocaine at the studio, but he knows what cocaine jazz is, so he would do like those type of parts, and then we'd say, no. So now it's more like we would describe him like it's stupid stuff, you know, like, okay, so now it's too much like you're wearing like a leather Kangol, so we don't do that, you know. Like those guys, they know exactly what we talk about like this all day, so we know that's a way for us to achieve like precise results.
Yeah. Those kinds of references that you can pull. So wait, cocaine jazz would be more like mid 70s into like the 80s jazz, like that kind, or
It's a choice of notes, but also interpretation, and it's in that song. It's more when it's like he stops like following like the main theme, and goes a bit more improvisational, and he starts like cranking a bit, like just putting more air into the saxophone, and playing more desperate, a bit like looking for blue notes and everything, rather than sticking to the softer parts at the beginning. And
Got it, right? Because you did say it was for that specific part you asked for that. Because it sounds like he's kind of in the cut for most of the song, but okay, so it was for that particular part, and you wanted him to
But he does wear like long leather coats. Yeah, black leather coats. So yeah, he's in the zone for sure.
You guys got to bring him on the tour.
it would be great.
It's a hell of a sight.
But he's too busy.
Oh man, how there was 8 years between albums. Do you guys continue? And your solo album was released in between there, which was I really liked that one too, by the way, and the cover too with the tuning. Was it like a tuning fork, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like one of those it's like one of those like crazy covers you find in like a record store or something.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, it's mostly our main reference for record covers. It's Hypnosis, like
that old label.
Yeah, the old graphic design studio from the 70s that did all the at least the best covers for us. And so they're so creative. There's a great documentary on Hypnosis.
Yeah, they did like the Led Zeppelin covers, Pink Floyd, and best studio. Like they made something that will never exist again, unfortunately. It's like there are some artists that make things and they kill the possibility of doing something better afterwards. And Hypnosis is one of those studios. There's like Otomo with Akira, for example. He made like a Japanese animation in a way that's not gonna exist anymore. I think Miyazaki, when he will stop, he will bring this with him too,
Really?
There are people who reach a level that makes it impossible to come afterwards. Her Blue Balloon with typography is the same. Like since he stopped like doing things, there was nobody that managed like to reach his level. So it happens sometimes.
And you think it's because someone got to such a level of greatness that it's hard to...
Yeah, it just makes it impossible. They kill it with when they stop, they kill the discipline, and then you have to do something else. But it's fine,
That's something I think about a lot, and I don't like to. I guess it feels like maybe I don't know, maybe it's a depressing thought. But sometimes I start to feel like maybe there must be a saturation point, and maybe we're reaching it where sometimes I often feel that way with film. Like I look at films now. I look at a what I would have thought was a really terrible movie from 30 or 40 years ago, and I watch it. I'm like, wow, look at those shots. I don't even see that in like the best movie now. And then I start to feel like, well, maybe movies are maybe they're done. I don't.
But the thing is that we're optimistic and they kill like their discipline with them, but then there are new things coming in, and things are just being made differently. But for example, there was like a Ghibli after Otomo. It's just different, and it's great, and it's another form of animation, and they made something amazing but different. And with typography, then there was like a lot of other things happening after. So it doesn't mean that things will not be good again. They will be different.
And also it's a bit, there's a bias because those are our personal heroes, but I guess like people that are 20 years younger than we are have different heroes, and so it's very subjective.
Yeah, it is in a way, but at the same time, there's like a level of technicity that's objective, and that can't be like the technicity of Her Blue Balloon, for example. It's unmatched, and I don't think it's possible to make it.
And obviously, we wouldn't exist without the computer, either in graphic design or music. But I think that yes, definitely something has been lost, like just that link between the hand and the brain, and so this is why like the cars look terrible, the buildings look terrible. most of them, you know, and just because it's that natural connection has been a bit lost with computer.
This, and also the fact that when you look at Her Blue Balloon logo, even if you have like 4 times like the letter A, like the 4 times they're gonna be just slightly different, just to make the right interconnection and also like a optical balance that's good.
Yeah.
Whereas today with a computer, you're gonna, in most cases, type your word, or even if you draw it, and when you are satisfied with an A, you're gonna take it and then duplicate it. And that's why that's also why you can't reach the same level of precision and everything when you stop working by hand too.
Do you think about that when making music, the way you make music? Do you think about how, like, to your example, to your point, like, if you make something, it's just very easy to copy paste, like, oh, this is it, and just sort of loop it or copy paste or whatever. But do you think about sometimes like there's a slight variation to this that could happen in the song that would make this song even stronger if it was this part, but just slightly a little faster, a little slower, behind the beat, ahead of the beat, or just off a bit, or, you know, the imperfection that can sometimes, if you want to call it that.
Of course we do, but that's also why we don't try. I mean, if we, like, in a world where we like skills or whatever wouldn't be, or technicity wouldn't be a problem, we would probably be a band like Chic or Steely Dan. But because for this reason specifically, we are not trying to make Chic or Steely Dan's music, but taking advantage of what a computer can offer to make something different. That doesn't try to be that, but to be something that's taking the best in our ears that computers can do, which is repetitivity, like precision, power, and stuff like this. And then within a song, of course, we can't help but, like, even on songs that are loop based, at the end there's not 2 loops that are the same. It's like constantly like shifting and progressing. So Dear Alan is 1 loop from the beginning till the end. There's a B section in the middle, but those loops, there's not 2 loops that are exactly the same. There's always like something changing. That's because we are like a borderline. We have like a severe lack of deficit of attention. So we need things to be changing all the time.
Yeah, not that we compare ourselves to Chic or Steely Dan, of course.
Yeah, we would never try to do something like them, you know, because we know it's pointless.
Yeah. Have you guys ever met Nile Rodgers?
Yeah, we did actually in Los Angeles a year ago, something like this.
We had great bands. Yeah. I remember.
What was the occasion?
It was
I think it was some.
It was a Zane Lowe party after Coachella. Yeah. And he was there. Yeah, it was great. Like for us, like him and Bernard Edwards. I think Bernard Edwards is a bit like easily forgotten.
Oh, so easily forgotten.
And
Agreed.
to us, Chic is really the blend of Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards.
That guitar sound, that bass sound, and
even like Thompson's at the drums.
Yeah.
But like I remember when we were listening to Chic, when we were like when we met and even before that, or the stuff that they did. What we loved about their music is that it's very difficult to comprehend what they are doing. You know, like even when you listen to like I don't know, like. For me, one of the best examples is Le Freak or Upside Down.
Oh, shit.
Because like they are so intertwined in their playing that when I finally learned how to play like Le Freak on the guitar, I was so disappointed because the guitar part is very deceitful on its own because it doesn't sound at all like what you're listening when you listen to the record. And to us, that's the magic of this band is the perfect
intertwining of
them two as musicians.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's almost so. To your point, it's like the guitar on its own, just soloed, is doesn't sound magical necessarily.
But that's their genius. They know not to overdo it. They just do exactly what they have to do.
Yeah.
So that it works as a whole. Like in that regard. The Strokes are a great band also.
Yeah.
like between like the two guitars, the bass and the drums. Like if you listen closely, they do like something different all the time. They do things that don't really make sense on their own, but everything is so well like intertwined that it makes for an amazing result.
Yeah. Did you was Niall familiar with your guys' stuff?
At least he pretended.
I bet he is. He seems like he's up on stuff. I bet he is.
Yeah, we don't know for sure, but he was like very nice.
Damn, that's pretty. Shit, that's pretty cool. Zane Lowe, go to a Zane Lowe party, meet Nile Rodgers. Would you? I mean, thinking of Nile and thinking of like like them doing records for whoever, Madonna and Diana Ross, and then you guys just did "Wake Me Up." We referenced it earlier for the Weeknd. Is that something you guys would do more of, like making stuff for other artists or with other artists?
Not necessarily. We are not running after this. We would do it if the initial idea sounds good to us and if we think there's something interesting to do. But producing pop music for the sake of producing pop music doesn't interest us.
Mm. How did that Weeknd collaboration come together?
He got in touch, like, I can't remember if it was late 2021 or 2022, something like this, while we were still working on our album. And he told us that he wanted to make like an orchestral piece that would be like an opening, that would sound good as an opening. And then we started talking like about what he wanted to do, and we thought it was the fact that he called us to make this made sense to us. So we're like, okay, let's do it. And then we worked on and off on it for 1 year, something.
Wow. And how did the thriller of it come into play?
But so we first like made the orchestral part, so the beginning of the song as it is now almost, and played to him, and we made like 10 seconds of music as a drop to show him that it could go somewhere and it could be more than just like an intro, And he was like, "Oh yeah, I like this. Like, give me more of that." And so we because we were working on our album, we made something very quickly, and that sounded a lot like Thriller. And we told him, "Okay, there you go, as a demo, but beware, it sounds a lot like Thriller, Abel." And he was like, "Yeah," and I like that it sounds like Thriller. And I mean, it makes sense because there's a natural affiliation between Michael Jackson and him.
Yeah,
and on different levels, and we think he liked the idea of overtly, is it the right word, or openly having like a Michael Jackson reference in one of his songs. And also that and also because we made like different versions without, and they all sounded good, but at the end that was the one he was feeling the most at ease with.
Yeah,
and fair enough, it works.
It's cool though too that like it's like, because we were talking about I mean, it's the breakdown of Thriller. So it's like, even though it's like the most, maybe the most iconic is the most iconic Michael Jackson song, it's like a part of the song that you wouldn't necessarily think to use if you were going to, use some of it,
Yeah. And actually it's only like the bass placement. It's just to do like a to. That's just it. Because the notes, everything else is different.
Yeah.
But
the notes of the bass are different.
No, everything, even the notes of the arpeggio, like the chords, nothing is the same. It's just like the placement.
Wow.
But in all fairness, and also knowing that we all knew what it was, it makes sense also not to do it the thug way and to include Rod Temperton in the thing,
Yeah.
It's an idea, and the idea was very clear. But on a musical point of view, it's not the same notes, but of course everybody thinks of Thriller, so it makes sense to include him.
Yeah. We were talking about album covers earlier. Fourth album, Hyperinflation, Hyperdrama.
What did you call it?
The fourth.
Hyperinflation.
Yeah, don't even ask me. Hyperdrama is the fourth album.
Okay.
And it occurred to, it didn't really occur to me before, but it occurred to me looking at them now, this being the fourth one, like you guys never put your name on the album.
Yes, yeah, but that's we were talking about hypnosis earlier. That's the Led Zeppelin lesson we learned. Is that on
the Pink Floyd lesson too? Yeah.
Yeah, but on Pink Floyd it's written on the cover.
But not every time.
But from Led Zeppelin 4 onwards, so on Houses of the Holy 2, Presence, there's not the name of the band on the covers anymore. No track list, no album name, nothing. And yeah, we've always liked this idea of putting minimal information. You just put one image, and there's on audio video disco 2. There's no track list, nothing. You just have an image, and even on the back, there's nothing.
Yeah, it's a blend between the Chicago strategy. You know, the band, like,
oh yeah,
where they always have this logo, but it's a bit different because it says Chicago. But since we have that cross logo, we just like this idea of like repeating it over and over with a different look.
How did you guys come up with the cross logo?
We but so Hypnosis again. Like we were finishing our first album, and we're like trying to look for an idea, and we didn't know what to do. And one time in Toronto, after playing a show, we ended up at the promoter's place. They were like a bunch of young people, and we were having a drink, and they had the Dark Side of the Moon on the mantelpiece. And we looked at the cover, and we were like, yeah, this is such a great cover. If only we had a symbol strong enough that we could put on a cover, and that would be it, and we wouldn't need nothing else. And mind you, we were touring and everything, so we already had the cross with us, but for some reason, we didn't think of it. And then 3 weeks later, we had this kind of epiphany. We were like, of course, we have this symbol because we have the cross, so we can just put the cross on the album, and that would be it. And so I called up an old friend of mine that's making music now under the name of Breakboat. But at the time, I knew him because I was in graphic design school with him. And we knew that I went into like 2D graphic design, and he went into 3D animation. So he had the tools to make a model of a 3D render, like a cross. And we told him, like, we made a draft of the cross like this, because we knew that if it was frontal, it wouldn't look good. So we wanted it to have a perspective and to be a bit like the ship that enters in Star Wars, you know.
Yeah.
And so we made like a hand drawn draft of the cover. And we told him, can you do it? Can you make us a 3D model so then that Somi can draw it by hand? And he started working on it, and the first results, they didn't look cool, because actually, like, the perspective of the cross that we use, it doesn't exist in the real world. It's an anamorphic design. We had like to transform it a lot so that it looks cool in perspective. If you take our cross as it is on our albums, you render it in 3D, and then you walk around it. It's almost like the same size on both sides of the horizontal bars. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Both bars are the same length,
and like the bar, the bottom bar and the top bar, they are the same length. So
it's a fake perspective.
If you look at it like if you take the 3D model and then you flip it and you put it frontal, it's gonna be like a cross where the horizontal bar is in the middle almost of the vertical bar.
Interesting.
So we had like to cheat, and to adapt like the 3D until it looks like what it does. That's why we can never do it in real life. Sometimes we would think, oh, maybe for this event, or maybe sometimes festivals, they ask us, can we make the cross in 3D? And we're like, no, you can't, because this shape doesn't exist in the real world. Or if it does, it looks corny. It doesn't look at all. It's an anamorphosis, we say in English.
Wow.
It doesn't look like this in real.
That's makes it even cooler that it's not replicable in real life in a way.
I mean, it is, but it looks like shit, you know?
Well, right, but it's not replicable in the way that you intended it to look, right?
Yeah. Like for example, like all the covers of audio video disco, our second album, they were like models, miniatures that were photographed. And the miniatures, they looked so weird because
they're just one point of view that works.
Yeah. And if you look them in real, they have such a weird shape.
That's so funny. But between albums, are you guys sending ideas back and forth? Are you guys thinking about what could another album be? Or are you just living life?
Yeah, we're living the life, and we don't work until we decide to work. But because we are neighbors and we don't stop seeing each other when we don't work,
there's always something, some kind of exchange, like listen to this or look at this cover or watch this film. So there's always this ongoing conversation.
And we shape little by little what could be our next record. And when we feel that we are ready, we just like meet in the studio every day and start working. Yeah.
And how do you? So, does one just propose to the other? Like, let's meet. Let's go to the studio next week. Or I mean, do you both have to feel like you have the? Was it natural?
We know it. Yeah, we feel when it's ready, and then we naturally start to meet at the studio and. We both know, and we're like, okay, let's start next week.
When you start a Justice album, when you're in the beginning stages of it, how do are things pretty in place already, or do you have to search for something in the studio to you have to find what you're hearing in your heads?
Now there's a lot of research. Like on this album, we spent like months doing research and development before we finally started like writing the first tunes.
Did R&D?
Yeah. For real. We did R&D both in the analog world and in the digital world, but more in the digital because we are more interested in that. And the thing is that when you do this research, you can't help but like starting like shaping some like ideas that can become songs later, and some of them that we used. And once the shape, once the ideas were like translating in something that felt good for us, then we started to write songs. Yeah.
Wow. And so what is the R&D? What is R&D for Justice?
But it's as sexy as R&D is any other department, which is not at all. We just spend days like nerding out on things and tweaking them until we find ways of making things sound in a way that we like. And we already had the idea of making something that was more loop-based. But at the same time, we're thinking, okay, like we like the idea of loop-based music, but we can't listen to loop-based music because it's boring. So how can we make it so that's exciting and that's constantly evolving? And so this is when we came up with like this thing of like maybe we can do one loop and then we take the exact same loop and we make it with all different instruments. And for example, Incognito is like this, and there's like a lot of other songs. One Night All Night is like that. The disco part in the middle is exactly the same as the rave part, but one is made only with synthesizers, and the other one is made only with like drums, bass, and guitar. And it was like, okay, like, so this album could sound like if we had a switch on our board.
Yeah, some kind of time travel switch.
Yeah, and you're like techno, disco, and so it's exactly the same music, but being like made in very different ways. And so we're like, okay, that's one simple way. Technically, it's not simple because you have to re-record everything.
Yeah.
But it's a simple way of making something loop-based.
Exciting, yeah.
Exciting because it's the same loop, but everything is different about it.
You have to try to find a way to maybe or maybe not tastefully like hit the switch, you know, how do you go from rave to disco and make it actually work, you know, on a record especially.
Yeah, but for this we were like really treating them as different songs. So the disco parts, we would make a session for it and record it, produce it, mix it. Then we would do the same with the electronic parts, and then only at the end, during the editing phase, we would put them together once they were like mixed and everything. At some point where we almost thought, for the disco parts, we're gonna mix them, master them, print them on a vinyl, then record them, then reintegrate them. And we're like, fuck, it's too complicated. And also because we didn't want them to sound too retro. We wanted them to be disco, but disco of today.
Yeah.
And not to sound like a 70s disco. We wanted everything to sound modern.
Yeah. Going back to, so you guys... when you guys made your album, or you guys put your album out, you guys turn down a tour with Daft Punk, didn't you?
On the first album?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Why was?
But because we used to be compared a lot to them, and we thought it was a better move to do smaller things, but our own thing. Rather than opening for them, and yeah, we think it was the right move to do. We love them, and that's not the problem at all. You know, we are very happy that they would propose us, but it was a better move for us to just go sideways.
Did they ever hear any of your early stuff, and did you ever get any feedback from like, oh yeah, we like it, or did you even know? Were you around them at that point, like to even know that, or?
Yeah, like Thomas, I think he did like some sort of pre-mastering on 2 of the very early remixes that we did. But I can't remember for which tracks it was. Yeah, like very helpful and welcoming. Very like both of them are very, very cool guys. Yeah,
that's awesome. The Fire video with Susan Sarandon. How did that happen? We wanted to make a video and the basic pitch was we like the visual of a mirrored car being washed, and we're like, okay, how about if we, instead of making like girls washing a car, it could be us washing a car for a girl or a woman like to drive it then, because none of us has a driving license. And we started thinking, okay, who would be the best woman to drive this car? And we're like, Susan Sarandon, of course, because we, like, for many reasons, like she was our first choice, and we got in touch, and weirdly enough, she said, okay, let's do it. It wasn't a hard pitch.
Huh?
It wasn't hard to get her to...
No, I mean, we got very lucky, but I think like her son was aware of our music, so he said like, yeah, mom, you should do this. It's cool.
Yeah.
So he helped a lot. Yeah,
that's awesome.
He told her, they're cool, do it, because we were one of the first show he ever went to. So yeah, thank you, Jack, because that's his name.
You were one of the first shows he ever went to.
Yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
And she was she was so cool, and she's like so gorgeous. Yeah, she was perfect.
Does that car? I love cars, but I don't know too much about them. Does that car exist? Is that a real car?
I think
it's a Toyota Celica.
Yeah, Toyota Celica that we
pimped.
We pimped, and at some point we gave it to Mac DeMarco, but I guess the paperwork didn't get done. So yeah.
Yeah, we made him like in French. It's called the poisonous present. So we gave him the car after. But it's I think it's such a terrible present because he's not allowed. It's illegal to drive it because it's mirrored, so you can't see it. It's like actually dangerous to drive a car like this. It's an old car. There's paperwork. So sorry, Mac.
So it's just sitting in his in a garage somewhere,
or maybe he dumped it somewhere. I have no idea what he's done with it.
That's amazing. Cool. Well, thanks so much for making the time to do this.
Thanks a lot. Of course. Thanks for having us.
It was great. Yeah.
Have fun the rest of your time in LA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out Broken Record on YouTube. If you want to listen to us on the go, be sure to subscribe to Broken Record wherever you listen to podcasts.